Hello there. So, as you're all probably aware, the new Forza Horizon 5 car pack just came out recently, and I decided that I would check out the car pack to see if it's actually worth it or not. The car pack comes with about 4 brand new cars: the Pagani Huayra R, some weird saline Ford F-150 looking thing, the Lotus Emira, and the Nissan Altamaniac made by Chris Forsberg. Now, these 4 cars all cost about $5 US if you actually want to get them for yourselves, but today I bought all of these car pack cars so you don't have to. Let's get into it. So the first car that we're going to be checking out today is the Nissan Altamaniac, and this thing is absolutely insane. When you upgrade this car, this thing can get up to over 2,000 horsepower, which is just absolutely insane. And mind you, that's more horsepower than the fucking Koenigsegg Jesko and Hennessy Venom F5. And both of those cars can reach over 300 miles per hour, which is just crazy. But even though this car has 2,000 horsepower, it's not the fastest car in the game. It can only go about 250 miles per hour with the right upgrades. And surprisingly, even though this car is kind of built like a race car or a time attack car, it doesn't really have very good handling, which I found pretty surprising when I was first driving it. It kind of handles more like a drift car if you're not careful. But even with that aside, you can still treat it like a race car, and if you're good at driving it, yeah, it is pretty grippy, which is cool, I guess. But overall, I don't really think this car was my favorite of the car pack cars. It's definitely maybe my 3rd favorite of the entire car pack. It's definitely cool, but it's not really the thing for me. So, but even with all those issues, I think this car is a W. Let's move on to the second one. The next car we have up on our list is the Saleen Sport Truck XR. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I don't really know that much about this car. In fact, I didn't even know it existed until it was added into Horizon 5. But this car is actually pretty cool when I started looking into it. It's obviously built off of a Ford F-150, but it's actually not that surprising once you look underneath. You see, this car doesn't really have that much going for it. It only has one tire compound, which is the off-road tire compounds. You can't really give it engine spacers or wheel spacers, and there just really isn't that much customization overall for the car. You can't give it different suspension, you can't add freaking anti-lag to it or anything like that. Nothing. So it's definitely the worst car of the 4. And I wouldn't really be too mad about the car if it wasn't paid for, which is my biggest problem with this car. The fact that I had to pay $5 for this car and it doesn't even really have that much customization on it, I definitely think it's the most disappointing car of the 4. And it's definitely my least favorite of the 4. So if you want to buy this car pack, maybe just don't try out the Saleen. There isn't that much going for it, and it's the worst of all the cars. But even with that fact, it's definitely a really cool car. I just wish it had more customization. And if it was a free car, then maybe I wouldn't be too mad about it. But overall, this is probably the only L in this car pack. So, that's kind of unfortunate. But let's move on to the next car. So the next car we're going to be taking a look at today is the Lotus Emira, and oh my god, I love this thing. I'm not even that big of a fan of Lotus, but for some reason, there's just something about this car that I really, really like. It's kind of like a shrunken down Lotus Emira in a way, except it's just not electric anymore. And even though this car is a bit small and lightweight, It's insanely good for racing and surprisingly grippy considering it's not exactly a race car. It doesn't really have that much customization either, but it has a lot more customization compared to the Celine, which I guess is a plus. And not even that, this car just looks beautiful by itself. I mean, this is definitely one of the nicest looking cars in Horizon 5, and its sound is really amazing too. This thing has one of the best stock sounds I've ever heard in Horizon 5, and probably one of the best car sounds in the game just in general. And this was definitely my second favorite car of the update, behind one other car that we're going to be looking at next. But overall, this car is definitely worth to check out if you want to buy this car pack. And I really enjoyed driving around with it. So overall, I'd give this car maybe a 9 out of 10. It is definitely a W, and I would recommend checking it out if you're going to buy the car pack. So finally, we're going to move on to the final car of this car pack. Let's go check it out. Alright, so the final car that we're going to be checking out today is the Pagani Huayra R. And I just love this thing. The second I saw that this car was going to be coming into Horizon 5, I immediately wanted it. I was a little bummed out that it was only unlockable behind a paywall, but I'm not even that mad anymore because this thing is absolutely insane. This thing has such an amazing car sound. It's extremely grippy and it just looks so aggressive. This is undoubtedly my favorite car of the car pack, and even just update 22 in general. The Pagani Huayra R, I've really been wanting it to come to Horizon 5 ever since the game launched, and I'm so happy that it's finally here. Again, little bummed that it's behind a paywall, but it doesn't even really matter because this car is absolutely amazing. Now, even though this car is literally a race car and is extremely grippy, I wouldn't really recommend taking it online. While yes, it is good around corners, I don't really think you're gonna get first place in this thing, since there are many more OP cars in the game that will easily smoke this thing in a race. So I would probably recommend not taking it online. But even with that small little issue, I still think that this is my favorite car of the entire update. And this car is a massive W, and I'm giving this car not even just a 10 out of 10, but an 11 out of 10. I love this thing. For a successor to the Huayra R, this is absolutely beautiful, and I really hope Playground Games continues adding more cars like this, since I love this thing. So, yeah, now it's finally time to give my thoughts on the entire car pack. So, let's get into that. So, what are my final thoughts on this car pack? Well, I definitely think it's worth it. It's only about $5, it's not crazy expensive or anything, and I think you're definitely getting a good deal on this car pack. It's only about 4 cars, and you're probably going to get a good amount of playtime with all of them. And I think the only real disappointing car in this pack is of course the Celine truck, because, well, it just doesn't really have much. And the fact that you have to pay money for it in order to drive it is a bit disappointing, and it could have easily just been the new festival playlist car for this month along with the AMG. But even with that small issue, I'm not really complaining. This was definitely a very nice car pack, and all the cars were really fun to go and drive around, even if they did have some issues. So overall, I would give this car pack a 8 out of 10, and I would definitely recommend buying it, especially if you want to try out cool cars like the Huayra and the Lotus. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this little review on the car pack, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So, goodbye.
Dr. Fauci, give us vaccines, help all the people